Hello, and welcome to Stef Talks Trash. I'm your host, Stephanie Valentic, Editorial Director of Waste 360, and today I'm talking trash with Claire Cummings-Bogle, Waste Programs Manager at Bon Appétit Management Company. Bon Appétit manages dining halls at corporate campuses and colleges across 33 states. They recently implemented a new technology called WasteNod to track their food waste and find solutions. Let's talk to Claire about what Bon Appetit is doing to combat food waste.
Well, thank you, Claire, for being here with me today. I'm excited to hear about Bon Appetit and about WasteNod. So, Claire, would you please start by telling me a little bit about your background and how you got into waste management?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I actually started with Bon Appetit as a student dining in one of our dining halls. I went to college at Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon, and Bon Appetit does the food service there. And I, was dining in the dining hall and really interested in the issue of, food sustainability, and was like, what are we doing at our college campus? What is our food service provider doing about all these issues? And I found out they're doing a lot and decided to, go on and end up working for the company just a year out of college. And I've been with them for now 9 years. I started as a fellow working on, connecting students that dine in our college campuses with issues of food sustainability. And as a side project during the summertime with Bon Appetit, I was diving into kind of some research projects, and they wanted me to look into the issue of food waste. And specifically, I was looking at food recovery programs. And when I got that assignment, I was like, man, this is kind of lame. I'm not that interested in food waste. I wish I was doing something kind of more fun and cool, like sustainable seafood or farm workers' rights. And lo and behold, as I dug into the issue deeper and realized just how connected the issue of waste is with all aspects of the food system, and how just important of an issue it is, and how little was being talked about at the time that I was diving into it, I realized this is actually a really important area of work, and got super passionate and excited about it. And I ended up moving into a never before created position called waste specialist with Bon Appetit, because they recognized how important the issue was, and have since gone on to become the waste programs manager.
You mentioned you've been there for 9 years. So what kind of challenges have you seen Bon Appetit facing with, being, like you said, at dining halls throughout the country, and where did waste not exactly come into the picture?
So and I think it's helpful to share that we do food service throughout the country at colleges, universities, as well as corporate campuses. So we're the entity that comes in and cooks all the food, sources the food, handles the catering at the campus. And the challenges that each place faces is really different. A college is really different than a corporate environment. And also the challenges vary depending on where you are in the country. So, someone in Portland, Oregon is going to have a very different set of challenges than someone in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. And so, all of our teams, I think initially, our chefs are really dedicated to preventing and reducing food waste. So it's kind of embedded in the nature of the way that we cook and prepare our food. But they were looking for ways to go beyond what they were already doing. And I think one of the best ways to kind of start to find opportunities to improve when you're already doing a lot to prevent and reduce waste is through tracking, because you really don't know what you don't know. And once you start tracking, it helps you understand where there's opportunities to make little adjustments, sometimes big adjustments, but in our experience, it's often little adjustments to consistently prevent and reduce food waste in maybe new, innovative, creative, simple ways. So I think around, we've had waste tracking in our operations for a number of years, just pen and paper, really simple, tracking on production sheets. And in 2017, actually in 2016, we tested out a variety of different kind of new waste tracking programs that were on the market. Really great, neat technology that we were excited about. And we tested those for a year at a variety of different operations, and just found that while the technology was really cutting edge and exciting, it wasn't working for our chefs for a variety of reasons. And we weren't seeing the results that we were hoping to see, and we weren't seeing the engagement that we were hoping to see. And so in 2017, we said, let's bring together a team of chefs and waste experts and developers to try and create a program that's built by chefs for chefs, that really works for their flow of the operation, that captures the information, the waste data that they really need, but doesn't go like above and beyond what is needed. Because one of the other challenges is like, kitchens are really busy. It's a hard job to be a chef. And so you have to build a system that integrates with the flow of operations. So that's really kind of how it all got started. That's how we ended up developing our own program, and it's been super successful ever since.
So you mentioned, you have a process of moving from pen and paper to something that, chefs on the line, they don't have time to, write down pen and paper, to going to this customized technology. Do you have any, specific scenarios where the waste not system works? Because you're across 33 states, and you have all these different establishments, from dining halls to corporate campuses, that are going to be using this technology.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about how it works and why it works for the smallest of like coffee shops to the biggest corporate campuses with the busiest kitchens. Mm-hmm. The way it works is we use tablets, like your standard tablets, and we built this app that captures the cause of the waste, so like why something's being wasted, and then it allows them to capture the quantity, or essentially an estimated weight, without having to use scales, which can be expensive and take up space. So we actually have a patent pending system that allows people to show on the tablet screen. They'll choose a container. So if they have, let's say, a Cambro, or a bucket of food waste, they'll pick the bucket on the screen on the app, and they'll show on the app how full it looks. So they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, it's about 50% full. And then they're going to tell the system what kind of waste it is. And we actually went into our operations and came up with 4 average weights of different kind of waste categories, to come up with like an average estimated weight. And so they'll say it's dry, or it's liquid, or it's mixed. And that comes up with an estimate of the weight of what they're throwing away. And we tested this, and it's on average within 5% of the actual weight of the waste, which is pretty darn good. And it allows our teams to really efficiently and quickly capture why something's being wasted, where it's going, and how much, in order to get the type of information they need to create behavior change. And an example of this is we had a college account in the Northwest that was using our waste not system, and the chef was noticing that pretty consistently he was seeing this large amount of poor quality waste at the same time every week, and he started to get concerned. He was like, what is being wasted so consistently, because it's not the right level of quality? So he talked to his team, and he found out they were over ordering lettuce, and it was going bad quickly, and they couldn't use it in time. And so he was able to take that information and adjust his ordering practices in order to prevent that waste. Something that probably would have gone unnoticed if he hadn't been tracking with the app.
So it's really interesting to hear about the evolution of you moving along and chefs training and using this technology and seeing the results, just as you said, for instance, with adjusting their inventory. So did you have any specific food waste reduction goals before you started implementing this technology, and how did they kind of change once you were able to kind of integrate it throughout your different campuses?
Yeah, so as I said, we've always had like a really strong commitment to preventing and reducing food waste, just by being people who love food and don't want to see it wasted. But more formally, in 2015, we launched our low carbon lifestyle. And this was a company-wide commitment to creating practices that would really prevent climate change impacts. And of course, food waste is a huge contributor to climate change. And so we made some programmatic commitments around like kind of following the EPA's food recovery hierarchy. If anybody's ever seen that, it's a really helpful tool to know how to prevent, like what to prioritize when you're thinking about how you approach waste prevention and reduction. And so we have company-wide commitment around, all of our teams are expected to do one of 5 different programs that prevent waste at the source. So waste tracking is one of the ways that they can meet that commitment. And of course, having waste not as an option just makes it all that easier for our teams to do that. We also have a company-wide commitment that 80% of our teams need to be food recovery verified. So that means they're regularly donating their excess food to people in need, and they're verified, which I think is an important thing to note, by an outside third party that confirms that they actually are donating food on a regular basis, and it's not just like a one-off thing that they did for the holidays. That tells you that it's an actual waste prevention initiative, not just charity. And then the third piece of our low carbon lifestyle commitment is that our teams need to be doing something to divert waste from landfills. And we have one of 4 ways that they can go about doing that. Composting is an obvious one, but we have a lot of teams that also have animal feed programs where they will divert food waste from like a salad bar to feed animals that sometimes even end up back in our cafes, like pork or chicken. And we also have a company-wide commitment to reduce waste by 50% by 2030. And that's because we're part of the US Food Loss and Food Waste Champions, a set of businesses that have made really strong commitments, recognizing that strong commitments are needed in order to prevent climate change.
So, you've discussed a lot about, stopping food waste at the source. Have you been doing any education with your customers or your guests that actually dine into your halls and in your campuses?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, because it's one of the most fascinating things for me, looking at our waste data from the teams that have launched Waste Not, is that guest plate waste actually happens to be one of the largest amounts of waste in our operations. Not all of our teams are able to track that because it's a slightly harder piece of data to capture, but the teams that are tracking, we're finding that guest plate waste is actually a huge amount of what's wasted in our operations. And so we've partnered with the Natural Resources Defense Council, this was back in 2019, to run a study to better understand why people leave food on their plates. And we have a white paper published that anybody can check out. It's at bamco.com. If you just search clean plates or toward cleaner plates, I think is the name of the white paper. And that has a lot of information about what we learned from the study. And obviously guest education is one piece of this, but there's a lot more research that I think needs to be done to understand how we can empower people to be informed, better customers so that they're helping us in, prevent food waste in our operations. And I think there's a lot of, it's interesting. One of the biggest things that stood out for me from that study was the fact that we looked at both corporate and college campuses when we ran this study. And we found that college students on average waste more than the corporate employees, even in the same food setup, like a free food program where it's all you care to eat. Even in the same food setting, college students waste more than corporate employees. And I think that's so fascinating. And it just leads to so many more questions for me of like, why is that? Can we dig into that? What more could be done to try and like unpack that and figure out how, because so many college students I talk to are so passionate about this issue. So it seems like a disconnect. And I'm hoping someone would be willing to dig into that and do more research.
Well, it sounds like you have a step forward in the right direction, because you're able to collect that data right now, seeing where exactly the food's wasted, and kind of trying to identify the problem areas that you can actually solve and prevent it in the future. For instance, even pre-portioning, what goes on the plate before they take it to their table, so that maybe they will waste less in the end. So what exactly, needs to change in the mindset for the consumer and from, for all of us that kind of don't have, that are fortunate enough to not have food insecurity issues?
Yeah, I think we need to take a good hard look at our value system. I mean, that's just a personal feeling about like, making sure that we really value the food that's on our plate. I also think it's just like any other issue in the food system, there's a disconnect. People don't see food waste piling up, waste in general piling up. Even just the way that tray returns are designed, it's all hidden. You drop your food off, the conveyor belt takes it away, and you never have to see it again or think about it again. Well, as a food service provider, we don't have that luxury. We're the folks on the other side of that tray return that are seeing it pile up, that are having to deal with it. And I hope that maybe in the future, we can come up with ways to make people a little bit more aware of what's going on behind the scenes, and to take a little bit more ownership of what we all have a responsibility to do, which is really protect, Mother Nature, and be mindful of the impact that we are each personally having on her. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll definitely have to keep up with you, check in, and do an update on waste360.com. So thank you so much for telling me more about, what you're doing personally and at the company level to kind of combat food waste. So it was really interesting to hear everything that you had to say today. So thanks once again.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to check in after like maybe a few years of using all this waste tracking technology. We might have some really interesting learnings to talk about. So I'd love to revisit it.
Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of Stef Talks Trash. For this and other episodes, please visit waste360.com. Have a great day.